It is a scam when you don't allow everyone to operate on fair terms.
We are the Robin Hoods of sports betting. We take something back from the rich bookies and enable our customers to beat them instead.
Hi guys, my name's Neel and I'm going to take you through my first month of using Trademate Sports. If you like the content that you see today, please like and subscribe. There's going to be a button somewhere on the screen here, and just click on the button to get more content like this. So, who am I? I'm a former teacher, and this year I made the decision to turn professional in my trading and betting. I've been doing this for a few years and have become, more consistently profitable. I thought this was the time to kind of take the plunge. A big part of that was using Trademate software. This is a core part of my strategy, and I, devote some time each month to working on Trademate and trading through the platform. I'm a huge fan of the software, so I'm more than happy to show you what I've done, and hopefully it'll come in useful for you. I write content for Trademate myself, so there'll be the occasional article. I'm a psychology teacher, so my interest is on betting psychology and mindset. So again, check out those articles on the website if you get a chance. Also, just to make a point here as well, I'm a dad. I have a baby daughter who's a year old, and I want some more flexibility in my working life. So this is a big part of my decision to do this. But also, I'm telling you this because some of you might have children, some of you might have busy schedules, and might be thinking, how much time can I get out of Trademate? You might be surprised, what you can do and how you can fit it around your life. Also, this year I'm going to be studying for a master's in computer science. I'm quite interested, to work in the betting industry, change careers, as well as my professional betting. Maybe that could be an avenue for me going forward, and just to learn how all this kind of software works. As many angles as you can make profit from the bookmakers, the better, in my opinion. If you're interested in any of the stuff that I'm writing or doing, I have a blog that I've just started called mybettorlife.com, or you can find me on Twitter at mybettorlife as well. But anyways, on to the good stuff. Enough about me. How do I use Trademate myself? So on average, it depends on the day because sometimes there's errands and things like that. But I'm using it maybe 2 to 3 hours a day during the week, so on weekdays. For me, because I live in the Middle East, so I'm a few hours ahead of Central Europe time, 1 hour at the moment. And I'm up quite early. I have no choice because my daughter's up quite early. So I'm trading. I'm looking at Trademate, in the early morning hours. Now, I'll try and get on at other times if I can, but actually I'm not trading on Fridays or Saturdays. These are some of the peak hours and some of the busiest times to actually find trades on the Trademate platform. So this is something that I can't do, but something that you might be able to. So I'm quite aware that that potentially is costing me profit, but there's not a huge amount I can do about it. But it just goes to show that you don't have to be necessarily on all at the same time. Trades are coming through constantly all the time. I haven't used up all the bookies yet, so there's still some bookmakers that I'm yet to sign up with. And again, like I mentioned, so I have a limited amount of trading time I can do because of family and work commitments and other activities. But there is still lots you can do with the software, and hopefully this month I'll get more time to devote to Trademate. So just to have a look in a nutshell, how have I done so far? So this is around a month, just over a month, but as you can see, I've made about £3,000 profit, and my bank has grown by just over 50%. So the figures might be slightly off, but just to give you an indication, my starting bankroll was £5,000. Again, my balance here it's less than 8,000 because there is about £1,300 in open bets at the moment. Another indicator here is that this is over 1,000 trades, so it's not just over a small number. 1,000 is a reasonable sample size to get an idea of how it's gone. So I've been quite pleased with this so far. On average, I've kind of been hitting a return on investment of just under 8%. Again, which is better than any bank you could probably get at the moment. And again, for not a huge amount of work, again, a couple of hours a day, I've been able to get this on a 5,000 bank. So I've been very pleased with the way the first month has gone. But this is to show you as a graph kind of how it's gone. Now, I guess in a way I was quite lucky here because my profits kind of immediately took a meteoric rise. Now you can see it's kind of flatlined a little bit. And gradually you've seen my profits in blue are kind of getting more in line with the actual expected value. It's still well above the closing expected value, but you can kind of see that actually, I made some profits quite fast, and generally they've been kind of steady and picking up again and getting in line. But I anticipate maybe there could be a downturn coming. But again, the more trades I get in, the better it's going to be for me. So again, you can see a peak here. You can see here the expected value. There was a kind of a bit of a gap here, and then the closing expected value here. So if I show you at the moment where my Trademate is, so this is I've recorded this earlier today. There's still 50 trades open. A couple of trades have come in, but this is kind of where I'm at the moment. So you can see here. So this is kind of up to date. It's fairly up to date here, and you've got my trades on there. Looking at some more of the figures here as well, you can see the total turnover that I've had has been around just under £40,000. So that's a fair amount of trading going in. Depends on the bookmaker. Some of my stakes are higher, some are lower. And again, if I was just flat staking, I would be getting around 7% interest. But actually, I've been averaging about 7.8%. But my hit rate's only been about 40%. So you can see the kind of odds that I'm betting at. You don't necessarily need a 50% hit rate if you're going for the higher odd selections. But if you're someone who might get frustrated if you have a long losing run, then maybe you want to shorten the odds a bit. For me personally, with my bank, I don't mind an occasional losing run because actually, some of these big odds selections are coming in. I think what I'm finding is post-COVID lockdown, there have been a lot of surprises across the sporting world, a lot of shock upsets. So I think there is actually maybe even slightly better value in sometimes not being afraid to go for these long shots, higher odds selections, proportionally to your bank. Something else that's been recommended by in other Trademate videos again is trying to squeeze the time down before kickoff. My filter does go up to 48 hours, but that could be costing me profit. So what's recommended is 12 hours before kickoff, before an event starts, so that you're not exposed to sudden changes that might affect the closing line. So some ideas for me. So how I manage my workflow to try and make it as quick as possible. So I go through each bookmaker individually. So what I would do is I'd go onto my trade feed, and let's say here I've got William Hill. So I just go through all of the William Hill trades. There's still plenty missing. And then once I finish with William Hill, let's say I want to do Betway. So then I would set Betway on there as well. In terms of my presets, I choose odds here from 1.5 onwards. I'll talk about that in a second. But yeah, there's nothing for Betway there. So I'll just cycle through my bookmakers and go from there. And then once I've finished, my favorite bookmakers, then I'll just keep the preset back. And it's selected all the bookmakers for me. And I'll kind of go through the list and work through that way. I found that saves me a little bit of time when I go there. Also, I group bookmakers together. So what you might have noticed is there are some bookmakers that have the same odds. So these days, you'll find a lot of bookmakers share the same companies who provide odds for them, and some of them are under the same managing company as well. So, I mean, there's other examples. Write something in the comments if you know there's other examples you've noticed. But for example, Betfair Sportsbook. My own Betfair Sportsbook was restricted a long time ago, but I use Paddy Power instead because Paddy Power has exactly the same odds. Same thing with Unibet, 888 and Mr. Green all have the same odds. So sometimes what I've done, how I've chosen my trades, it might be the first one that comes up, but I know that their odds are the same, so I record it in the feed. So it's not 100% accurate for me, but I know the profit take is. So for example, here you can see the number of trades I have. So with 888, some of those have actually been with Unibet or Mr. Green. So depending on which one I can get on the quickest or which one I'm logged into to get those bets. So yeah, any more of those, do send us a comment in there. Some other things that I do, I don't check my results constantly. So I know in some videos you might have seen different trades, example trades. I mean, I can show you a few example trades, but just from my perspective, it's not hugely important the way that I use a Trademate. But to give you an example, here are some live trades that I've got at the moment. There's only about, I think, 4 that are live. Here are some of my open trades. To give you an example of the stakes that I'm using, you'll also notice that most cases here, I've rounded my stakes. Again, that's to try and avoid any restrictions, any kind of suspicions. But some of them I haven't because they're already on restricted accounts. So my 888 is slightly restricted. So I'm just going to put as much as I can in there. So here's some settled trades from today, some that have won, some that haven't. You can see the closing lines. Sometimes the closing line, doesn't go in my favor. I still win. Sometimes they do go in my favor and I still lose. That's just kind of the nature of it. But I don't get too fixated on any one trade. So what I really like about Trademate is I'm betting on sports that I don't necessarily have a particular interest in. I don't have an opinion either way, and I don't have an emotional attachment to it. And I think for me, that's an important thing. That as long as I'm just putting out the bets out there, I will be in profit at the end of it. So again, I'm not checking it that often, and unless it's an event I was looking forward to. For example, I'm watching the Champions League. And I'm going to watch it anyway and just enjoy it as a fan, or I might be trading it on the exchange. Otherwise, I wouldn't really follow how the trades are doing. If you asked me how a particular trade did, a lot of the time I might not remember. And that's something Jonas has referred to as well. Again, he doesn't remember necessarily one particular trade because it's a volume-based approach. So yeah, don't get too frustrated if you get in a losing run. It's going to happen. It's all part of the nature of the game. But at the same time, don't get too excited when you've had a great run. So even although my profits started off really well, I had a feeling that they might come in line with the EV eventually. And even now, this might be a little bit tricky this month. I might not be making as big a profit, but it will still be nice and steady, and still coming in there. Like I mentioned before, don't be afraid to take high odds selections. So if I show you again here, so a cool little feature on your analytics page. So if you can break up, in more detail. This is something this month I want to do more closely as well. But you can see here the graph at the bottom of your analytics page. It kind of clusters together the kind of the true closing odds here and my hit rate. Now, there haven't been lots of high odds selections, but you can see that the ones that have come in generally, there's been a very good closing edge there, and good profits being made. So these do contribute to your bottom line as long as they're in line with your kind of staking. Then you will be making steady profit from that. Now, The other setting that I have that might be worth mentioning at this point is I don't use 30% Kelly. I use 20% Kelly for my selections. Now, the reason for that is that a lot of the time I can't get my full stake, and so it's better for me to get a realistic stake on an event, and I found that the 20% Kelly generally kind of seems to fit my staking size at this level better. So occasionally I will round up rather than round down, but that's generally how I've been using it. My aim is to try and use the pro software and organically get myself up to the minimum recommended bankroll, which is £20,000, and obviously at that point, again, I'll try and tweak the settings here or there. So again, it depends on your preferences. If you're more aggressive in your approach and you want to build your bankroll faster, you might want to use a higher Kelly percentage. If you're a little bit on the conservative side, so I would say I'm maybe a bit more cautious, obviously, especially now, as this is my full-time income, that I just want to make smaller, steadier profits. You might want to reduce your Kelly staking. And it has been shown that Trademate is still profitable if you're flat staking. You'll still make a good income from it. So again, it's really up to you. It's for you to kind of play around with. Something, again, I don't tend to do. I don't tend to take bets that are shorter than 1.5. I think this is more a psychological thing for me. You can, but I feel like, if those kind of bets lose, I would get more frustrated. So again, because the returns are not that big, and we've seen there's plenty of upsets and shocks in the world of sports. I'm a little bit hesitant to take odds shorter than that. But what I do is, if I notice there are a few around 1.5, 1.4, 1.3, I will combine them into a multiple. So I'm not recording this on my Trademate software, but I'll do these kind of multiple bets, accumulators, to get some value. Now, usually accumulators are terrible value, and I would never recommend anyone to do them. But if you have an edge on each selection, then again, you are creating value for yourself. It's a good bet to do. So let's say if I put some examples here, so any from 1.1 to 1.5. So you can see, for example, at Marathon here, you might be able to combine these two bets and get a bet that's closer to evens, whereas you might not want to do just the one. I might not want to put £160 on a 1.34 selection because I'm not going to get that much back. But if I double them up, there's a good chance that will come in. And you can see, if you've got a 5.5% edge on one and almost a 4% edge on the other, that's going to create even more of an edge for you. Yeah, if you're doing these as a double or treble or Trixie, something like that. So that's something to consider. I would only do these multiples if you have value on the selections. Otherwise, I don't really touch them. But that's a nice extra little earner, another extra way you can use the Trademate software, to have a look at. Now, at some point, you're going to face restrictions, but there are so many bookmakers that you can use with Trademate, that you'll still have plenty you can use, even if you have a few restricted. You can avoid these restrictions, for some time. Have a look in our article series. There's an article on how to avoid restrictions. The link will be in the comments. And try to stick to high liquidity leagues where possible. So you can see on the software as well the liquidity figures. Actually, what I do is, if I have a restricted account, so for example, my 888 account, I would try and only look at high liquidity matches, because I know that I'll get a reasonable stake on those matches, only if there's good liquidity on them. So by high liquidity, we mean big games, big football leagues, all the major American sports, the NBA, Major League Baseball, for example, big tennis tournaments, anything quite high profile, you will be able to get a better stake on. And I like to use rounded stake, so I don't like to if the Trademate software is telling me to bet £13, I would round it up to 15 or down to 10. So I try not to use those kind of stakes because again it does flag up attention, and you want to try and avoid the bookie's radar as long as possible. Also, I would stick to just one bet on each game. Sometimes you might get a list of different handicap bets, for example, for a game, but I would just pick one and not try and hammer each line. That's another kind of fast way to getting restricted. So just these are a few things to bear in mind. But there's lots of other great advice on our website from betting experts that we've spoken to as well that will show you how to do that. So yeah, you might have a restricted account. I still use some of my restricted accounts. So I have a Bet365 that's restricted, but I'm still able to place bets and trades on there. And again, look at liquidity and go for some higher odds selection. So actually, if you're not sure about something that's maybe 8-1, 7-1, use it on a restricted account for small stakes. And psychologically, it doesn't feel like it will be a big loss. It doesn't make a big impact on your bank. But you can get a nice win here or there by trying that method as well. So I like to use user-friendly bookmakers. So these are the ones that I prefer. I use others, but these are the ones I find easiest to use. So I tend to make a lot of bets, with these bookmakers because of that. So again, the Unibet, 888, Mr. Green, Bet365, 10Bet, Betway. They just have an easy search function. William Hill as well, actually, I could add to that. So you can find your markets quite quickly. And again, because my time is limited, I need to put as many bets on as I can. During the time I'm using Trademate. So if there's any others that you like, that are your kind of preferred ones, then let us know in the comments. So you can see in my dashboard as well, the idea, the kind of turnover that I'm getting with different bookmakers here. So again, Unibet's getting a lot of my business. William Hill, lots of turnover, not so much profit just yet. But this kind of gives you an idea of the ones I'm using the most. Again, a big part of that is because they're easier to use, so I find it faster to use those bookmakers. So again, there's plenty I can improve on there, and other bookmakers I can use even more in future. So what could I actually do differently? So I'm happy with that for the first month. I'm sure many people would be. It's a good profit and a good start. But I think I could have done even better. So actually, I just need to find more time to use the software in between other things. So if you are using it, the more you use Trademate, the more you're going to make. It's kind of as simple as that. You treat it as a job, but not a particularly difficult job. I'm placing my trades, but I'm listening to music. I have something on in the background. I don't need to focus in the same way. So obviously, I mentioned I'm a full-time sports bettor and trader. I have other things. I trade on different sports. It requires a lot of concentration. It requires a lot of research and a lot of time. Whereas Trademate, the only time you need to invest in it is just the time to actually place the bets. You don't have to do anything beforehand. And that's what I love about it. So the times that I'm using Trademate are not peak hours. So again, the biggest output is on the weekend. That's when lots of the major football leagues are being played. Lots of sporting events are, and I'm not really online during those times, but you can be. So again, that's something that that you guys can do, and you'll find you'll get a much bigger volume of bets. I mentioned about the Kelly staking. So again, I use 20% Kelly. I could up it to 30%. So that's something I could try this month. And if I can get my 30% on, let's see how it goes. I can still sign up to a few more bookmakers. There's some that I've missed out. Also, the edges that I tend to take edges of, let's say, 2% or more. But actually, I'd like to start taking bets with an even smaller edge and just have more and more volume. So I think, even betting at 1% edges, you will make a profit. And again, any edge on the bookmaker, as much as you can squeeze out of them, the better, in my opinion. So this is basically my story for the first month. Let's get some predictions from you. How do you think I'll do this month? So by August end, do you think I'll do better than July? Do you think there might be a downturn coming? What do you think? What kind of issues might I face? Is there anything else that I can do to improve what I've been doing? And I guess a prediction from you guys. How long until I can get the bankroll for the pro software? So that's kind of a prediction for you guys. So I'd love to hear again from anyone using the software, how you're getting along with it, how you found it. Any other tips and tricks, that will help other Trademate customers would be great.